Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's discourse on St. Isaac the Syrian, and this is homily number 4, and today we are talking about detachment. So let's get into it. I'm super excited for this one. Let's find out what he has to say. All right, my friends. So St. Isaac tells us, the soul that loves God finds rest in God alone. First, detach yourself from outward bonds. Then strive to bind your heart to God. Now, sorry, does not mean that we don't love God as we should. Probably, like, we should love him more, because I find myself wanting other things. I find myself looking for other types of love. So something has to change, something has to be reformed. Now, we do love God, and we're working, and he knows that, and it's so forth. Okay, so first, detach yourself from outward bonds. Then strive to bind your heart to God. Detachment from material things comes before attachment to God. When a child has been weaned, bread is given as food. Likewise, a person who wishes to become excellent in God must first wean himself from the world, just as the child is weaned from its mother's milk. It's something I assume very hard to do. I obviously haven't been able to do it, but hopefully we can all get to that point where there's a plethora of love, essentially. Okay. Bodily labor comes before the service of the soul, just as the creation of the body took place before the soul. For the one who does not engage in physical labor does not perform inner labor either. Interesting. I mean, in so many ways, we are looking for comfort that it doesn't cross our minds to think of physical labor. Even nowadays, the majority of our jobs are desk jobs and things like that, or maybe you're working remotely, maybe you're working in an office, whatever the case is. We do a lot less manual labor with our hands and with our bodies. And so he's saying, actually, if you're not willing to do the physical labor, you're not going to be willing to do the inner labor either. And honestly, inner labor is a lot harder than the physical labor. But that doesn't mean go get a job in construction. But what it does mean is that when you don't want to do the dishes, get up and do the dishes. When you don't want to get up as early in the morning, try to get up earlier in the morning. And these are things that I have to tell myself too. It's not like I'm sitting here preaching. But when you don't, whatever you don't necessarily want to do physically, because your body is, because you just want to be comfortable right now and kind of push everything till later, maybe reverse that. Maybe start little by little. And you'll see, okay, well, this is one task that I did today that I didn't necessarily want to do, but I needed to get it done. Okay. So, for the one who does not engage in physical labor does not perform inner labor either. The latter grows out of the former, as the ear of grain comes out of the seed. And whoever neglects the service of the soul will also be deprived of spiritual gifts. You don't work towards your soul. You don't work towards that inner peace that needs to be there. You are going to be deprived of the spiritual gifts that God wants to give you. That's essentially what he's saying. So, temporary suffering for the sake of truth cannot be compared with the joy that is kept for those preserved in works of excellence. Temporary suffering for the sake of truth cannot be compared with the joy that is eternal. This is all temporal. It's all temporary. As the tear of sowing are followed by the joy of the harvest, so also the labor done for God, followed by joy. For the hand that earns bread, sweat, rejoice in all its work. Through sweat, rejoice in all its work. So does the heart that labors for righteousness, rejoices when it receives the knowledge of Christ. Gives us good examples, right? So, endure competence and contempt and humiliation with a heart fixed on excellence, for the sake of being familiar with God in prayer. So a lot of times we talk about things being for the sake of God, but truthfully, we're missing a portion. I think that statement here is a little bit better. Is that for the sake of with a heart filled on excellence for the sake of being familiar with God in prayer. That's what we're using it for. So it's not necessarily that God is in need of your humility. It's not that he needs you to bear and suffer. It's more like, so for the sake of God, we're doing this for the sake of God, dying for the sake of God. No, dying for the sake of my faith in God, dying to myself for the sake of excellence in God, so that I grow in excellence. God is already sustained all on his own. So, back to the story. Each time a man patiently endures harsh words with discernment, unless he is at fault, he receives a crown of thorns on his head for the sake of Christ. Blessed is he. So saying, well, people are going to insult you, right? This is what's going to happen. You're going to be insulted. And sometimes it's your fault, and you're not receiving a crown if it's your fault and you're bearing it. You're receiving a crown if maybe it's not true. And they're right. You're right, but you still, with humility, instead of exploding in the face of that person, you go off and you pray for them. Wouldn't that be so much more better and so much more edifying than anything else? At other times, he is crowned and does not even know it. I love that. He will flee from the glory that comes through knowledge, will discover within himself the hope of the world to come. I want to read that one again. He who flees from the glory that comes through knowledge will discover within himself the hope of the world to come. Knowledge of being crowned, I suppose. The one who vows to leave the world, yet quarrels with others over worldly things, because he will not part with what pleases him, is completely blind. So if I'm saying, well, I want to leave this, I want to detach myself from the world, and not necessarily go and become a monk or a priest or a nun. This is not what we're saying. You can detach from yourself from the world while in the world. Be of this world, be in this world and not of it. You can detach yourself from things by interior mortification that no one knows about. But nevertheless, he's saying, look, if you vow to leave the world, if you're saying, I want to detach myself from this world, but you're still getting angry with others, you're still picking a fight, you're still trying to prove yourself in one way or another, you will not please God. You will not be a part. You will not part with what pleases Him. Is completely blind. This is. I'm getting a message. This is in regards to you will not part with, or that person will not part with what pleases him, is completely blind. For he renounces the whole world voluntarily, yet argues over small parts of it. Think back to your day, think back to yourself, and think back how many times you and I have done that. Whoever flees from what pleases him in this world will behold the world to come with his mind. He who is a master of possession is a slave of passion. Do not think of gold and silver alone as possession, but everything you hold for the sake of desire. You see that? Do not think of gold and silver alone as possessions. It's not just money that is your possession. It's everything that you hold for the sake of your desire. It's everything that's right there within you. He who cuts off hindrance out of fear of passion is a truly wise man. Without constant devotion to the works of excellence, true knowledge cannot be found. Knowledge of life is acquired by bodily work alone, but by directing is not acquired by bodily work alone, but by directing one's effort to cutting off mental passions. Your mind is so powerful. I cannot reiterate that enough. Your mind, my mind, extremely powerful. And the things that you're keep telling yourself, that's what you come to believe. And so be very careful what thoughts you allow in, what triggers those thoughts, and what are the things that you need to change for you to be able to do something a little bit differently. Okay, so he continues and he says, he who labors without discernment easily falls prey to sin when its occasions presents itself. Never praise someone who labors with their body but is lax with their senses, whose ears and mouth are open and whose eyes wander without restraint. We do this, goodness, we do this all the time. There are so many people that we praise simply out of them being in the light, right? Like someone who's famous, someone who knows a little bit more, someone who grew their social media account to something bigger. We praise them. But yet, when we examine their actions, we'll find that this is not what needs to be. This is not, they're not gaining what they should be gaining. And we want to emulate them and we want to follow them. So all I'm saying, I'm not saying that this social media is bad. Here I am talking to you through social media, right? So many great sermons exist as a result of social media. So many great speakers, so many great stories, so many wonderful things and people come out of social media. But again, just be careful who you're looking up to. In some matters, mercy is needed. In others, greatness of soul is needed. Consider forgiving those who have wronged you as an act of righteousness. Then peace will rise in your soul from both sides. That is, when your past surpasses dignity and justice, you will foster freedom in all things. One of the saints has said, the merciful person is not just is blind, for he gives others from the wealth gained by deceit, deception, or wrongdoing. The merciful person who is not just is blind. So justice is important alongside mercy. Likewise, he says elsewhere, if you sow among the poor, sow from your own possessions. For what you sow from those of others is more bitter than wheat. And I say, if the merciful person is not above justice, he is not truly merciful. So essentially, it doesn't mean that you should let people walk all over you because you are merciful. At times you have to be merciful. At times you have to have that greatness of soul that St. Isaac's talking about. But we'll continue and see, because I think he provides a meaning. This means that he will not show kindness to others, but will willingly that he will not only show kindness to others, but willingly suffer wrong with joy. He will not insist on full justice in his dealing with others, but will surpass justice with mercy, thus crowning himself not as one merely just under the law, but one perfected under a new covenant. To give to the poor from one's own good, to clothe the naked, to love one's neighbor as oneself, to avoid wrongdoing and falsehood, these were commanded under the law. So if you're doing this stuff, if you are feeding the poor, if you're clothing the naked, if you're loving your neighbor as yourself, if you're avoiding wrongdoing and falsehood, these are commanded under the law. This is what's required of every Christian that is out there. But then he says, but perfection, according to the new covenant, commands, if anyone takes from you, do not take it back. Give to everyone who asks. You must not only endure injustice in possession and outward things with gladness, but also with yourself and your neighbor and for your neighbor's sake. This is something very important, I think. He says something super important. You must not only endure injustice and possession outward things, the merciful person, where did it go? Yes, there you go. But also give yourself for your neighbor's sake. I completely lost track of where I was going with this. And you must not only endure justice in possession and outward things, but with gladness, but also give yourself for your neighbor's sake. There's something to be said about loving one another. It seems counterintuitive. It seems like I should love myself first and then love others. And again, I'm not saying let people walk all over you. Your dignity and your value comes from God. And you can choose to give, not be forced into giving, essentially. But giving, there's this paradox where giving of yourself actually increases your value in some ways or another to your own self, right? Your value is retained in God as it is, but it helps you grow in excellence, to use Saint Isaac's words. The merciful person who not only gives gifts, but who, when hearing or seeing someone in distress, cannot restrain his heart from compassion, who even if struck on the cheek by his brother, does not dare to return even a word that would cause pain in return. Oh, we do so much more. We become so indignant as this. We become so indignant when someone says anything to us, and so it's not fun. Someone commented and said, "May you have a good day and be positive." Thank you. I think it's Ala. Thank you, Ala. I hope you have a great day as well. Going back to our story, he says, "Honor the work of vigil, and you will find comfort near at hand. Be consistently occupied with the recitation in solitude, and you will be drawn into divine ecstasy at all times. Love poverty with endurance, so that your mind may remain concentrated and not wander. Love poverty with endurance. Hate abundance, that you may be protected from confusion of mind." I want to say, like, I'm reading this and I'm thinking there's a tendency to think of this in terms of wealth. Again, silver and gold, like he said earlier. But this is not what he's talking about. It's not silver and gold. Poverty is not poverty of money. Abundance is not wealth of money. It could be, but it's not always. In most cases, in most of our lives, this is not the case. But you know what? Your mind is so active that, honestly, you are better off if you silence your mind. Poverty with endurance. But most of the time, we have so many thoughts that we don't even know where to begin. We don't even know where to begin silencing them, and that's not good. That's what he's warning us against. Avoid the crowd and watch over your conduct, so that your soul may be saved from losing its inner peace. Love chastity, and this may be true, right? Love chastity. And I want to say this, there's different personalities in different saints. So I was actually listening to a priest talk about St. Moses the Black and how he loved people. He loved talking to people. He loved talking to crowds. He was a people person, where there are other ascetics that did not wanted to be in solitude all the time. And St. Isaac, I think here his personality shows as well. Yes, there's gems here, but we also have to understand that God created us with our own uniqueness, and that uniqueness has to shine. Okay? Love chastity, lest you be put to shame at the time of prayer before him who exposes your heart to spiritual struggle. Chastity of the mind. It's not just chastity of the body. It's both, right? As we said, as he was talking about earlier, you labor in the body, and then you do the inner labor of the soul. Chastity of the body may come first, but honestly, what he is referring to here is chastity of the mind. Keep your thoughts pure. What does Christ tell us? Christ tells us that the thoughts that come out of, it's not what goes in the body that hurts the person, what comes out, and what comes out are the thoughts of lust, of murder, of all these things that are not good. They come from within you first, and this is where chastity comes into play. This is real chastity that we're talking about. Of course, chastity of the body, but this is what it is. So cultivate purity of conduct, so that your soul may rejoice in prayer, and joy may be kindled in your mind at the remembrance of death. So death is a great thing that happens. It's not something that is that we're going to fear. All right, my friends, that is it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We will continue with homily number 4 tomorrow or the next episode, and I will see you guys then. If you have any questions, please let me know. And keep in mind that I am learning as much as you guys are learning. This is new for me too, so it's not like I'm an expert, but we're here and we're trying and we're striving. Praise be to God always, who is with us and who allows us to do these things. All right, my friends, we'll see you soon.